Every single morning, millions of American kids climb onto a big yellow bus and head to school. Nobody questions it. Nobody wonders why. It's just yellow. It's always been yellow. But here's what almost nobody knows. That specific shade of yellow was chosen by one man at one meeting over 80 years ago. And the reason he chose it will genuinely surprise you. This is one of those stories where a tiny decision made decades ago is still protecting lives every single day. And most people have never heard it. What looks like a simple color choice turns out to be one of the most brilliant pieces of safety engineering hiding in plain sight on American roads. Welcome to TinyButWise, where we take the small things you ignore every day and reveal the big truths hiding inside them. Before we get into the full story, we want to ask you a few things. And really think about these. Have you ever noticed that school buses are not the same yellow as a taxi or a highlighter or sunflower? It's a very specific shade, and there's a very specific reason for that. Here's another one. Did you know that the color of a school bus can actually affect how fast your brain processes what your eyes are seeing? And finally, this one might genuinely catch you off guard. Did you know that the United States, a country where almost everything varies by state, has had a single unified school bus color standard since 1939? One color. All 50 states. For over 80 years. How does that even happen in a country that can't agree on anything? Stick with us because the answer involves science, psychology, and one very determined man with a very specific vision. Let's go back to 1939. America is a very different place. There are no interstates. Cars are still a relatively new part of daily life. And the idea of a standardized national school transportation system barely exists. Different states are doing things completely differently. Some school buses are white. Some are red. Some are painted in whatever color the local district happens to have on hand. There is no national rule, no unified standard, and no one thinking about this at national level. Until one man decides that needs to change. His name is Dr. Frank Sear. He was an education professor at Columbia University, and he had spent time traveling across rural America watching how kids got to school. What he saw worried him deeply. Children were riding in everything from converted farm trucks to poorly maintained vehicles with no consistent safety standards whatsoever. So in April of 1939, Dr. Sear organized a conference. He brought together transportation officials, bus manufacturers, and education leaders from across the country, all gathered at Columbia University with one goal, to create a national standard for school buses. The conference lasted 1 week. And in that 1 week, they agreed on 44 different standards covering everything from the height of the seats to the size of the aisle. But the decision that would last the longest, the one that would quite literally color American childhood for generations, was the color of the bus itself. Now here's the curiosity loop. Of all the colors available in 1939, why yellow? Why not red, which already meant danger and stop? Why not white, which is highly visible? Why not orange, which is bright and hard to miss? The answer comes down to science, and it's more fascinating than you'd expect. The specific shade chosen wasn't just any yellow. It was given the official name National School Bus Chrome Yellow, later renamed National School Bus Glossy Yellow. And it was selected based on a very deliberate understanding of how human vision actually works, especially in the conditions where school buses operate most, early morning and late afternoon, when light is low and shadows are long. Here's the science that makes this color genuinely remarkable. Studies on human vision have shown that the color yellow, particularly in its peripheral vision detection, is processed by the brain faster than almost any other color. What that means in real terms is this: your eye catches yellow at the edges of your vision before your brain has even fully focused on what it's looking at. For a driver approaching an intersection at 40 miles per hour in the dim light of a November morning, those extra fractions of a second matter enormously. They can be the difference between slowing down in time and a catastrophe. But there's more. The specific yellow chosen has an exceptionally high contrast ratio against dark backgrounds, gray pavement, dark tree lines, shadowed intersections. And here's something most people have never considered. Yellow is the color that becomes visible to the human eye the fastest when transitioning from darkness to light. That means that in the foggy, dim conditions of an early morning school run, yellow becomes recognizable to a driver's eyes significantly faster than red would. Red, despite feeling like the obvious danger color, actually requires more light to be accurately processed by the human eye. In low light, red can appear almost brown or dark. Yellow stays yellow. It stays visible. It stays unmistakable. Dr. Sear and his team understood this intuitively, and science has since confirmed it repeatedly. The choice was brilliant. And because it was made at a national conference with buy-in from all participating states, it spread across the country with remarkable speed. By the 1970s, virtually every school bus in America was painted the same shade of yellow. Not because a law forced them all at once, but because the standard was so logical and so clearly effective that adoption became almost universal on its own. Now here comes the twist. And this one genuinely reframes the whole story. For decades, most people assumed school buses were painted yellow purely for visibility, to help other drivers see them. That's true, but it's only half the truth. The other reason is even more interesting, and it has nothing to do with cars on the road. It has to do with the children inside the bus. Research into color psychology has consistently shown that yellow, particularly at the specific saturation level of National School Bus Yellow, has a measurable effect on alertness. Not in an aggressive or stressful way, more like a gentle cognitive nudge. Children waiting at a bus stop in the early morning, still half asleep, respond to the sight of that specific bright yellow with a small but real uptick in attention and awareness. The color signals to the brain, something important is here, pay attention. It doesn't just make the bus visible to drivers. It makes the bus visible as an event, something worth noticing, to the kids who need to be paying attention when they're crossing a road to board it. That's not an accident. That's color being used as a safety tool from both sides of the vehicle simultaneously. Drivers see it faster. Kids respond to it faster. The bus itself becomes a visual alarm that triggers attention from everyone around it. One color doing two jobs, saving lives in two directions at once. And here's the most staggering part of this entire story. The decision made in 1 week, in one building, in New York City, in 1939, has never been seriously challenged or replaced. It has been refined. The name of the color was updated. The specific paint formulations have been modernized. But the fundamental choice, that particular warm, saturated, unmistakable yellow, has remained the law of American school transportation for over 8 decades. In a country that debates everything, this one decision has been essentially unanimous since the day it was made. Because it works. Because the science was right. Because Dr. Frank Sear, a man most Americans have never heard of, sat down with a room full of people and made a decision that still protects children every single morning across all 50 states. There are roughly 480,000 school buses operating in the United States right now. Every single one of them is painted a color chosen by one man at one conference before your grandparents were born. And every single day that color is quietly doing its job, catching the eye of a tired morning driver a split second faster, snapping a groggy kid to attention at the curb, cutting through fog and shadow and dim early light to say, "Children are here, slow down, pay attention." A color, just a color, and it has been saving lives for 85 years without ever asking for any credit. So here's what we'll leave you thinking about. How many other things in your daily life look completely ordinary on the surface, but were actually designed with extraordinary precision to protect you in ways you've never noticed? If you found this video valuable and learned something new, do us a favor, like subscribe to TinyButWise and share it with your loved ones. Now your turn. Drop a comment with the next topic. We read every comment, and the best suggestion gets a shout out. See you there.